Town Hall. My name is Joe Curtatone. I want to welcome you. I have the honor and the privilege of being the mayor of this incredible, creative, diverse, original community that we all call home in some fashion. I want to go over a little bit tonight's agenda. First, I want to thank you for your advocacy, your activism, and what you've done over the years to really speak to some of those values through different mediums, through different lenses, how you have brought life and vitality to our neighborhoods, even during the deepest and darkest economic times, and even during these difficult times, this health crisis. Arts and culture in Somerville has been medicinal for our entire community. I can speak for myself. So thank you very much. Your advocacy, your activism has done so much to heal, to vitalize, and to stabilize our community. So in terms of tonight's agenda, first I'm going to give some introductions of our panelists. We'll go over a brief presentation from myself and city staff, and we will leave some time for some brainstorming and discussion at the end and some Q&A. And first, we want to thank you in advance of the many suggestions and comments you've given in advance of tonight's meeting. That has given us certainly a lot of guidance. So without further ado, let me once again introduce myself. I'm Mayor Joe Curtatone. In a second, I'm going to have my two colleagues say a few things. First, at large, City Council Will Embaugh. Will, would you like to say hello?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for having this event together. I really want to thank you and your administration for putting this event together. And also thank everyone that is here tonight. I just want to say that one of the reasons that I moved to Somerville was our rich arts community. And seeing what this pandemic has caused breaks my heart. You know, some artists have already moved away from the city and others are struggling to survive. So our arts community, like you just alluded to, Mr. Mayor, is a fabric that makes Somerville unique. And we must do everything we can to support our residents. So I just want to let them know, you know, that I'm here to listen and we will continue to work, you know, with the council and, you know, our honorable mayor to do more. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And
thank you, Councilman Barr, and I want to welcome the Ward 7 City Councilor, another champion of the arts on the council, along with Councilwoman Barr, Councilor Tatiana Ballantyne.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm Tatiana Ballantyne. I want to thank you for establishing your arts and cultural organizations here in Somerville. I understand the value you bring to our lives. Personally, I know many of you. And I am with you from beginning to end to try to strategize and come up with alternatives, working with the mayor and his staff to help you through this, you know, really tough crisis. So I'm here to listen. I'll be here the entire time and happy to talk with you all, meet with you afterwards too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council Ballantyne. I do want to mention for all of you who are part of this conversation and meeting that Councilor Kristen Strezzo, new councilor at large, was planning to attend this meeting but can't make it. She wanted us that we let you know that she'll be watching and the recording of the meeting and is available for follow-up questions. And I think I can say that for the entire City Council. I want to thank them for their support. There hasn't been any effort on behalf of the arts and culture and this community that the City Council has not supported or advocated for us. I want to thank them all. Next, I want to introduce Greg Jenkins. Many of you know Greg. He's the director of the Somerville Arts Council. Greg.
Hello. I just want to say thanks for all the work that you all have been doing over the years. And, you know, obviously we're here to work with you and to help, you know, with your work within the city. And we're here to listen. And we've been hearing from you. And that's why we're here. So just want to say thank you and stay strong.
Thanks, Greg. Next, I want to introduce from the Mayor's Office of Innovation and Analytics, the Director, Kristen Stelgis. That's the Somerset office. Kristen?
Hi, everyone. I'm really glad to be here. I work with Greg on some of our long-term efforts to strengthen arts and culture in Somerville. So looking forward to hearing this discussion today.
And next, I always say she probably has the most fun job, especially when the events are happening. I promise they're going to happen again. She's the events coordinator for the Somerville Arts Council. Yaritza Menyaba. Yaritza.
Hi. Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm excited to be here, and one day we'll get the events going again, but let's hear what we all have to say.
Thank you, Yaritza. So I do want to just go, as I would with any public meeting, is provide a little context to where we are regarding COVID, because it's impacting this conversation, so many of our conversations. Right now in Somerville, here's our present status. There is one adjustment, sadly, that we now have 40 fatalities in Somerville. And you can see where we are, the number of confirmed cases, 1284, and the number of recovered people, a little over 1,100. You know, the situation has evolved. We've worked collectively to flatten out the curve, not just in Somerville, but in the region. We thank all of you for making that sacrifice, and we continue to strive to be vigilant as we prepare now for the resurgence. In Massachusetts, as we can see, the cases, there are still cases happening. People are still becoming ill, and we have more than 9,000 fatalities, and we're about to hit the 200,000 fatality mark, sadly, here in the United States. So, but again, we've paid a steep price in blood to maintain the stability of our healthcare system, gain some control of our lives, and we fully aware that our lives have all been turned upside down. We've all undergone an incredible amount of emotional trauma and duress because of the uncertainty and stress of the situation, and our economy has certainly been crippled, and we're trying to find our way forward as we prepare for a resurgence. Looking ahead, we can see our prevalence rate on a 14-day average is it's a little over almost 8 cases per 100,000. So our positivity rate is 0.71%. That's really good, but you know, we're seeing a lot more people getting tested, which is good. But again, it's important to keep in mind and be clear that people still are becoming ill, and there's still people dying. And COVID certainly is being unrelenting to the most vulnerable in our population, Black and brown people and immigrants, our seniors. So we continue to learn more about this disease and its spread. And again, it's important that we remain truly vigilant as we think about which activities in our lives and what parts of our economy are reopen. We must do so with 2 guiding stars guiding our compass, and that's make sure that we continue to ensure everyone in our community remains healthy and safe, and that any reopening of our economy or our lives is sustainable. Now to the meat of the conversation. Again, I want to thank you once again for all the comments you've given in advance of tonight's meeting. Is the funding for the arts, and where are we? We want to talk about in the immediate term, in the near term, and long term, so the things we're focused on and we're working collectively on as a community in the administration and the city council. And there, we're pleased to announce, one announcement we want to make this evening is that a new $500,000 investment to the Emergency Relief Fund for arts and culture. This is something we've already been engaged with the councils here on the call about, and we'll work with the city council to seek that funding and approval of transfer of monies to make that happen. We understand and are acutely aware in our economy, the negative impacts COVID has had, especially small businesses, independently operated and managed establishments who are the backbone of our local economy and our creative economy, individuals like yourself, who are, again, during the deepest abyss of the Great Recession, stabilized this community. We built upon that creativity and originality to sell some of those values and put us in the position of the growth we experienced up until COVID hit us. So this is something you'll be hearing more about. We're really excited about, and we look forward to working with Councilor Embar, Councilor Ballantyne, and the whole City Council. And I can tell you they've been staunch advocates for more city money to be invested in the arts. So I'm glad to work with them and all of you to make this happen. And the timeline of this will be over the next few months. We'll work to get that approval. Again, the $500,000, the new $500,000 of funding is in addition to the $120,000 designated for the Somerville Arts Council as part of the regular city budget, the FY21 budget, which started July 1st, ends June 30th. So that brings the total up to $620,000 for this fiscal year. Once we seek the transfer and it is considered and approved by the City Council, they'll be available for the arts, through the Arts Council for the arts community. But I want to make an important point and clarify something. We continue to work to lobby the Commonwealth to make the CARES Fund money available to support our local artists and our arts organizations. And let me give further clarification and context. Some of you have already in advance asked us, why aren't we using CARES Fund money? And let me explain why, because it's really not transparent in how it's used. So CARES Fund money in Massachusetts comes to 3 landing spots. One is the Commonwealth, one is the City of Boston, and one is Plymouth County. So we fall under the Commonwealth, and that's an important distinction. The City of Boston has already accepted a certain section of the CARES Funding Act called Section 5, which would allow for funding to be dispersed to distributed to individuals, artists in this case, as sole proprietors, small businesses. The Commonwealth has not, and we've been advocating passionately for this, and I want to give the councils an opportunity to speak about this and the funding, the other $500,000 I just mentioned. We've been working collectively, advocating to the administration and with the organizations we all sit on, in my case, the Metropolitan Mayors Coalition, the Massachusetts Mayors Association, that distinction, that section must be accepted and adopted by the Commonwealth to allow us to distribute CARES Fund money to you, in which case we would be seeking to distribute another $500,000 on top of the on top of the $500,000, the other $120,000 I also mentioned. So I just want to pause for a second because I see Council Lambar acknowledging that, and Council Ballantyne, and they've been strong advocates for this. So I want to give them an opportunity to comment on that. Will, you want to go?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really want to say I appreciate, your leadership on this. I mean, you've really been on the forefront of these issues. And as far as, like we are concerned on the council, we will make sure that we approve this with expediency. This will not be any duck and pony show, because we've been talking about our arts community for the longest time, and this is the time to take action. So I really want to thank you for your leadership on this.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you. Council Ballantyne.
Thank you. I know this is well needed among our arts and cultural organizations. So I'm, totally supportive of this. But I would ask you, as the mayor is saying, the city needs to lobby the state, that this is a to-do also for you all to reach out to our state delegation, to reach out to the governor, and say that there should be priority given to the arts and the cultural organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Ballantyne. That's a good point. And what we will do for everybody watching, we will provide you the information. We'll get that information out to you, but who has to be lobbied and what we're asking for. And it is a very explicit, simple ask to adopt a section of the CARES Act that will allow us to give that money out to our artists. And we're going to get this done. We're going to fight hard for it. So thank you for that point, councilors. So also we want to make sure we clarify the types of grants and that are available for our arts community. It's COVID grants for local cultural organizations, and those applications are due on the 28th of this month. Community support grants for BIPOC individuals and organizations, and they're due by mid-October, October 19th. And again, the new Arts Resiliency Fund eligible for investments in artists and businesses and the creation of new work and emergency funds, and more information can be coming on that soon. At this point, I do want to hand off to Greg Jenkins to talk a little bit about the local cultural council grants. Greg?
Sure. I mean, as many of you know, that each year the city issues, we have been doing grant programming, the local cultural council grant programs. So we get funding from the state, Massachusetts Cultural Council, and that cycle has been delayed because of the state's own budget cycle being slightly delayed. We anticipate that being issued in November 15th instead of October 15th. And I think you all know, over the past 3 years or so, through the mayor's support and his own advocacy, that we've been allocating some of our own OM money, just so that City Council understands that this money that comes in from the state, we don't necessarily have to match it, but we are one of the few communities across the Commonwealth that actually turns around and takes a little bit additional money to match this LCC grant process. We'll have more sort of details about that a little bit later, like in another month. But we do anticipate, being able to contribute an additional amount similar to what we've done before. We had discussed before about having it be, another 50,000. We're going to sort of explore that. We've got to look at all of our pots of money, but just to let you know that will be available. Typically, these grants are also for like residencies in schools, field trips, fellowship grants, very much project grants. A lot of the work that you see in the community over the years have been supported through these, this LCC grant process. But I just wanted to give you a little clarification, because typically in September we're rolling this out, but it is going to be delayed.
So that's a good spot to mention. If all of you were at the event when we did the awards during the winter before COVID came upon us, we had announced that we were going to seek and work with the council to increase the city's allocation, upwards of $100,000, and we're still committed to doing that. We never got to do that with the council because we had a lot of uncertainty when we had to present, and the council had to consider and debate the fiscal year 21 budget. And we'll see where we're at as we go to first on priority, getting the $500,000 in free cash, a request to the council to go to the emergency funding, and then potentially adding more on the matching side as well. So that's still on our radar, and we just never got a chance to do it because there was so much uncertainty about where services would be, where state aid to cities and towns would be. Things are still a little murky, but clearer than they were, so more to come on that. So thank you, Greg. I don't know if you want to add anything else before I move on.
Okay.
Also, we want to make sure everyone's aware there's individual financial support that everyone should be tuned into. We strongly encourage everyone to visit somervillema.gov/coronavirus-help. There are far more resources in this comprehensive guide than we can get into right now, but we want you to know there are resources here for you, and we're here for you to help guide you through them, and the staff will make themselves available. So before you assume nothing applies to you, please check out the website. Please reach out to us and let us make sure, let's be sure that there are opportunities for here to assist you as individuals as well. We also want to mention and talk a little bit about, highlight the long-term focus on some of our projects supporting the arts and our local creative economy. The first one is our work with Art Farm, and want to thank all of you who've participated over the long time period, years of envisioning, planning and designing, and design will be finalized this winter, like in many other capital projects. Across the city there was a delay because of construction halting and design process halting, but design will be finalized this winter. There'll be a funding request that will be submitted from the administration to the city council as soon as this spring. In construction, we expect to start in the spring of 2022, and the project will finish in the fall of 2023. Again, the timeline of the Art Farm is aligned with another project supporting that major utility work on Somerville Ave, the pump house. This is going to be an iconic project that really pay tribute to what's happening, to the history of Brick Bottom, the creativity of Somerville, our arts community, and really our civic vitality. And we look forward that we'll all be able to gather here. This project is definitely going to happen. I want to thank you all for that work. We are focused not just on what we're going to build that's new, but preserving what is special and an important part of our local creative economy, such as our Vernon Street Studios and Joy Street Studios. Many are concerned about artists being displaced and losing those spaces. We are focused on those spots and preserving that, and committed to do everything we need to do to preserve those spaces. And this falls into the other category, and we'll talk about the task force in a little bit. The General Installation Building, which is a building on East Cross Street in Somerville, is a building that is vacant that the city owns. We made a commitment to dedicate that towards an art and creative use, such as artist housing, workspace, exhibition space, and something we're going to work with the arts community on. There was a joint request for information, RFI, that was submitted that includes, again, new arts community space, and as a main focus, there will be a community process as it relates to the findings of the RFI and then the RFP, which is a request for proposals to actually do a project will be released that reflects the findings of the community. So this is a project we want to put in the hands of the community and look forward to working with you on that. And then I just want to mention the Armory. City doesn't own the Armory. However, it is so recognized as a community asset. And much like Joyce Street and Vernon Street, those studios, we want to make sure the Armory will remain a performance space, a community space, a meeting space, a workspace for artists. It is an important, again, feature and asset in local creative culture. And we're working collectively with City Councilor Mark Niedergang and the entire City Council, Arts at the Armory and others to make sure that space is preserved also, and there'll be more to come on that. Supporting all these efforts is really what we're doing around zoning, which is the tool and the framework to approach facilitation of arts and creative uses. I'm going to hand this off to Greg for more explanation and elaboration. Greg?
Sorry about that. I had a connectivity problem. I think a lot of you all know that, the city has been doing quite a bit of work around the zoning and the arts. Ever since Mayor Curtatone came in, that we were doing a lot of work in Union Square. And he helped with the whole creative economy in Union Square around the 2005 era. And we were one of the first cities to do a creative arts overlay in Union Square through the zoning. And from that, we were able to get approximately 5 live work units that are down at the Metro 9 complex that finally came on. It was very much, a critical type of zoning that we ended up doing and sort of clarifying a lot of arts and creative uses, which was really, really key and supportive both for the arts community, provided a lot of clarity to developers, to the planning board, and taking that all the way up to the new zoning. A lot of you all were involved with some of the public meetings and hearings that we've had over the years. Zoning is really key. Zoning sort of, either incentivizes or de-incentivizes how the community wants to see development and planning throughout Somerville. And the new zoning, which I give a lot of credit to, the city staff and the city council and a lot of people that came out over the meetings over the last 2 years, that within certain districts within Somerville, there will be sort of a 5% arts and creative use set aside, specifically in the mid-rise, commercial core and fabrication districts. And through a lot of advocacy as well, through the Boynton Yards and the overlay districts, almost up to 10% of the overall commercial space that will be set aside for the arts and creative uses. And out of this, we sort of recognize the need for, in a way, to develop a creative space task force to help us hone in on some individual policies that are kind of refine the way in which we as a city, both the planning and zoning departments, go down and through, get specificity from these new developments that are occurring in Boynton Yards. And I mean, I will say that, throughout the Commonwealth, I know that I've been at plenty of different conferences, and a lot of people have always been intrigued by sort of what we're doing through zoning and ways in which we can try to harness, redevelopment to support the arts community. So I just want to let you all know, I know a number of people have attended tons of meetings on this, and I do want to just sort of express, your thanks over the course of, almost 15 years, sort of being able to come out to the, to these community meetings, working with the planning department, working with the council to sort of hone in on this. But it really, really is important. We've got, some new units coming up with Powder House development that's coming up, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a few seconds. But these are sort of key things that in a way are really pretty specific around arts and zoning and arts and, you know, community planning. So we're fortunate, and I'm looking forward to continue to work with the community on this.
Thanks, Greg. Next, I'm going to ask Kristen Stilgis to talk a little bit into the Creative Space Task Force that will be established and work with the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. Kristen.
Yes, thank you. So, and again, I'm the SummerStat director, and I am working with Greg on some of these longer term issues. My sister is a glass and neon artist, and have had many conversations with her about her struggles around finding a place that's reliable and affordable to make her art. So this is an issue that I really appreciate, and I'm just really honored to be able to work with Greg on this project, where we're collaborating with the Metropolitan Area Planning Council to create a creative space task force. And this group is really going to have the mission of answering the question, how do we preserve our existing creative spaces, and how do we preserve our existing creative spaces, and how do we create new spaces? And so this will be a group of staff, area experts, an elected official, but really importantly, many artists and residents from the community who can help us grapple with these questions and really dig in and think, what are the challenges that our creative spaces are facing? Pre-COVID, there were already challenges. There's even more challenges now. How can we most effectively support the organizations as a municipality? As Greg was talking about, the zoning is unlocking a lot of opportunity. How can we best harness this? So the task force with MAPC, our first output is going to be a report and a plan. That's really the first step. And so the task force will help us move forward to implement that plan so that we can really make sure that we're preserving some of these real treasures that the mayor was talking about, like Vernon Street and Mad Oyster and the Armory, and also think through what spaces do we need to meet the great need for workspaces, for rehearsal spaces and performance spaces, really looking forward to seeing the outputs of this. So please stay tuned. And so I'll hand it back to Greg to speak about artist housing, because that's also an important piece of the zoning.
Right. I think a lot of you know, several years ago at the building down on Somerville Ave, there was a situation where, you know, sort of artist housing or artist loft space was kind of the trend about 8 years ago. And, you know, luckily through, you know, the council, through the planning board, there was an obvious, you know, reason to clarify, to derive clarification on, you know, what are artists and what are artists and creative uses. And from that, the city created a certification program. So now there's no longer, you know, any sort of muddling about, you know, if a developer says they're going to build something for the arts community, that we have a certification process. And the certification process is really, you know, stood us well in the sense that when, you know, 5 units out of 100 are down at the Metro 9 building and outside of Boynton Yards, or, you know, came online about 5 years ago, we were able to quickly, you know, be able to work with the housing division and to certify artists and to basically, you know, ensure that artists were going into those units. We have another round of artist certification in terms of working with the artist community, the housing department. We're going to start doing these certifications twice a year and create kind of basically a roster, or, you know, of artists that are available to be able to go into units. There are 8 new units at the Powder House development. Our own certification is on the 18th. You should just find out more about this certification. We do have 3 inclusionary units. And I think there's a total of 8 inclusionary units down there. So for all of you interested in, you know, what's going on at the Powder House, this is another example of, you know, trying to ensure that, you know, certain units are deeded, and they're deeded to the arts community, they're deeded to artists. There's clarification in that process. There's clarification on all sides. And so I think it's a positive thing. There is more information on our website, and there's a link there.
Thanks, Greg. This time I'm going to hand off to Yaritza Menyavar to talk about what we're doing regarding arts during COVID. Yalitza?
Hi. Okay, so well, in support to the Somerville community and artists during COVID-19, the Arts Council, we asked ourselves how to continue to bring the community together, and most importantly, how to get immediate financial support to Somerville artists. And as a start, we continue to implement additional public art projects. In June was the completion of the tree project by artist Fermin Castro at Marshall Street Playground, which you can see in the picture in the slide. In July, we also held an outdoor art exhibit called Chance for Change, and also the Poetry on the Bike Path. Additionally, we collaborated with Cambridge Health Alliance and completed a mural, Care to the People, by artist Amanda Hill, that's located at the Somerville Hospital. And that was kind of like a way to begin, but we also did a lot of virtual programming and have been doing. Without being able to execute in-person festivals, that's the route we decided to take. We built on our programming and continued our usual annual events online with a few pop-ups around the city. For example, Art Beat transformed into a week-long event full of activities, which supported all disciplines of arts, music venues, and brought art back to the community. So a little light in like the darkness of COVID. In April, we launched our Home Alone Art Series, a series of virtual performances and presentations where we hired artists to live stream from the safety of their homes and studios. And since then, we have collaborated with over 30 artists and have provided monetary support of $9,300. We also continued several of our arts unit events like the Big Gay Dance Party in collaboration with Health and Human Services. And just this weekend, we had a very successful What the Fluff Festival collaboration with Union Square Main Streets. And with our Nibble Kitchen program, we have been able to continuously support 5 immigrant entrepreneurs from Mexico, Brazil, Venezuela, Bolivia, and Bangladesh. The kitchen located at Bow Market has continued to incorporate Somerville's culinary traditions for the past 5 months since the reopening. And just to plug it in really quick, come by and support Nibble Kitchen. You can find the schedule on the website and social media. We're open Wednesdays through Sundays. And in thinking of our future projects, we're in the middle of planning for multiple public art exhibits and pieces, including a mural by Alexander Quito that will be outside of Gauchao Brazilian Cuisine in East Somerville, a photo exhibit featuring all BIPOC photographers, a projection project in Union Square. And for virtual programming, we have a number of projects, and just to name a few, the Evolution of Hip Hop is returning, the Honk Festival, Ignite, and we're going to continue our Home Alone Art Series by partnering up with organizations and more artists. So please contact to collaborate and participate. Thank you.